folks, it's Chef Tony. Welcome to another episode of ChefTSays. I am here with Amit Juneja.
Yes.
He's on my camera too. Hopefully when you watch this, it'll be all coolly edited and all. But he is the founder and owner of the Cajun Deli food truck.
Yes.
What do we call it that? Good friend, longtime guest of the restaurant, and actually now somewhat I won't say business partner, but we worked out a deal for him to be using our facility and produces amazing food. And my ChefTSays has not ever had a guest. You're actually the first guest on the show.
I'm honored.
So I'll talk to you, but I'll talk to you too. So I just wanted to kind of get together and talk over, because he's a freshly launched entrepreneur. A lot of what I talk about on ChefTSays is about hustle, startup, entrepreneurship, restaurant business. And I thought, what an awesome opportunity to talk to you and kind of just pick your brain and kind of tell the people what you went through and some of the challenges and the mindset changes of being an entrepreneur now, because you came from a 9-to-5-ish, what I call 9-to-5 background. So tell us a little bit about what you've been doing.
So I spent 9 years in finance, and took this leap back in October of last year, 2015. And just really just decided, I just wanted to, follow my passion, and, that was feeding others, and, the interaction and connection you get, when you're doing that with people. And I figured the easiest and best way for me to do that and to get out there was to start a food truck. So I started looking into the process and, reaching out to local, caterers and restaurateurs in the area to see if, anyone knew anything or anyone had any connections that they can, put me in touch with. And eventually, it just slowly started coming together. You set up the business, and you start, setting up the, you get the paperwork and the LLC,
Mm-hmm.
and so you do that part, and then you set up, all your financials, and then you decide, all right, well, I need a truck, and then what kind of truck do you want to get, and how big, and what do you want to put in it, and how are you going to outfit it, and who's going to do it? Are you going to do it? Are you going to pay someone to do it? Getting that built, and then figuring out the whole licensing, permitting process is...
Which has just blown up again because some other things came up yesterday, right?
Yeah. I was a little surprised the number of permits and licenses required to operate here in Montgomery County. Looks like it's like 5 or 6 for a food truck.
And for those watching around the world, we're in Montgomery County, Maryland, where my restaurant is, and so just to reference, because we will be seen all over the internet, I'm sure.
Oh yes.
So he just to kind of talk about the mindset piece for a minute, going from being an employee in, doing smart things and being a smart guy and having a career, and what's the challenge been kind of to go from that mindset of essentially somebody tells you what you need to do in some way, form, or fashion, to being an entrepreneur where you're out there in the ocean?
It was a big shift. I was good at my job, and I was really specialized in this one area, and so I had no problem doing that. And then I walked into this world, and I didn't know much about anything. I didn't know mechanical stuff, how to check out a truck. I didn't know the regulatory stuff. I didn't know all the business stuff, and figuring out is it your numbers and your viability and your costs and everything like that.
And you were in finance.
Yeah, and that, the differences between running your own business and running other people's money is completely different.
And I want to stop there because great feedback. None of this interview has been planned, just so you know, because I'm not that great at planning, so I prefer to shoot from the cuff. But on that note is really around, like in our business in the restaurant trade, there's a lot of failure. And I don't know how food trucks as an industry is a little bit of an shoot off of the restaurant trade, but I think a lot of where that failure comes, people jump in the game and think, oh, well, I'm a lawyer, I'm a this and that, I'm an important guy or an important gal and such, and selling food seems pretty simple, you know, and they don't realize what they don't know. They don't know what they don't know, which is one of the stages of learning, right? So they get to this point where they put all this money in, and a lot of these problems can't be solved with money. You know, it's not about how much you've invested, it's about getting the work done and figuring out who you got to please, and beyond even getting open, like then you're pleasing customers and guests and figuring out where to go and da-da-da. But I just think that point you made is really valid, because I think a lot of people think of the food industry, even though it's so big and produces so much revenue and employs so many people, as outside people, they think it's going to be easy. They're just going to kind of figure it out. No, well, we'll, you know, put in $100,000 and we'll figure. You know, well, then that becomes nothing. It's a spit in the bucket in a restaurant, oftentimes. Anyways, so right now you're launched a couple weeks, 3 weeks, a month, something like that.
Yeah, about 3 weeks.
Okay. And what's the first couple weeks been like?
Learning so much. Made tons of mistakes. You know, you don't know what you don't know until you need to know it. And so, you know, from day one to where I'm at now, I've changed the processes. I've changed, you know, my sort of game plan of how I want to prep and where I'm going to be and that sort of thing. You know, I didn't realize how much time I'd be spending, you know, at the end of the day, trying to set stuff up, set stuff up and schedule stuff, and you know, respond back to all the phone calls and emails that, you know, I got during the day while we were out. You know, it's you know, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. easy every day.
But you said something before, sorry to interrupt you, but you said something really important, that the long hustle days and the busy hours are nothing, or I don't want to misquote you, but essentially that when you're doing it for yourself, that you really enjoy it and you don't care.
Absolutely. You know, if I'm going to work 50 or 60 hour weeks like I was before, I'd rather be doing it for myself and getting a whole lot more job satisfaction and fulfillment out of doing that and doing, you know, really what I want to be doing.
It's amazing. Yeah, I think that for people that are watching any of my stuff and you know, other content on the web about entrepreneurship, I think it's a key to figure out what you truly want to do in life. And it doesn't mean that your days are going to be easy by far, right? But it's a different pressure when you're working with somebody else and you've got a boss who's on your neck, and you know, you have to respond to this email and you have to get a report in by this time. It's good and bad, because that kind of stuff does train you to be a better worker. But when you're working with somebody else, you're always, no matter how much you get paid, whether it's millions of dollars a year, somebody's limiting you as to what you can do for yourself. Whether it's, you know, the jump to be an entrepreneur, we don't know. It's your choice to make. Each person's got to make their own decision. But I always felt like when you make that decision to be an entrepreneur, you can always jump back. If it doesn't suit you or it doesn't work, you can always get a job. I mean, you know, I often feel like those that don't have work, not always, but many of them just don't want to really have work. Because if you're practicing what you need to be doing to get a job, you can always find another job. You know, but having your own business is something you truly want to strive for, I think. So what's been some of the positives and negatives? What do you see going forward in the business? What are your plans?
You know, going forward, I really like to canvas, you know, the whole area and really figure out, you know, where there's a big need. You know, there are, you know, a lot of places, you know, here in Montgomery County that are, you know, right next to huge, you know, food centers and malls, or places where, you know, there's a lot of restaurants and stuff, and then there are other places that are, you know, sort of out, you know, 5-10 minutes, 5-10 miles even, you know, from the nearest, like, you know, cluster of restaurants and stuff. So, you know, if there's a few thousand people out there and they're not getting, you know, the food, you know, that they want, and they have to, you know, go travel all these places, and, you know, it's always nice to get something new and different and not have to, like, leave your office to get it. And, you know, I really just want to, you know, improve people's day. Like, that's ultimately, like, you know, clearly this is a business and I want it to succeed, but, like, I got into this because I wanted that connection, and I wanted to, be out there, meeting people, and every day is different, right? I'm not sitting in front of a computer looking at screens and spreadsheets. I'm out talking to people, I'm out meeting people, I'm out 10 different places a day. I'm driving everywhere. I'm working, I'm cooking, I'm learning. It's every day is totally different, and I love that. Oh yeah, so don't pretend like you know everything, or think that you can figure it out on your own. Reach out to experts in the field and ask for their advice, ask for their help. Try build relationships with them.
And most of them, sorry to interrupt, but most of those people, like myself, I don't know if I'm an expert yet, but I've been doing it for a long time. Most of them are really happy to get. We're excited to see people that want to learn, and not that we're always learning too. But I think business is one thing that people create a community around it, and they're happy to share. Most of them, and if they're not, then they're not the right people. But if most of them will be, you can gain a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, and I've totally found that in the past few weeks I've been operating. Everyone I've met has been really nice, really friendly. Offering advice, or coming to check something out and be like, oh, maybe you should think about doing it this way or that. And the third thing is really make sure you know your numbers. Like, go through your business plan, triple check it. Price out as much as you can, estimate as much as you can, as accurately as you can, and go in with the right spending mindset and the right capital to start. And I'll just throw in a fourth, a bonus. I thought I wanted to do this, right? This was an idea that came to me, and of course you want to do something that sounds really cool, but you never know what it's going to be like till you actually do it. So before I actually even launched in October, I spent July through September working on another food truck, learning from that guy, talking to him, experiencing what it was like to be in there, seeing if I could take it physically, because it's a lot of work.
Different from an office job.
That's absolutely. And I discovered not only did I want to do it, like I love doing it. It was I had such a great feeling at the end of the day. I knew like this is what I had to do. And so make sure you're confident that this is for you, and the physical and mental energy it takes, that you have it, you're up for it.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think a lot of people too, there's a point of being an entrepreneur and thinking that you know it all, or that you've got a different way to think about it, and that your ideas will be better than anybody. So we all have to have bravado. We all have to have the ability to believe in our structure and our plan, because that's what we do as entrepreneurs. Like, we're not working with somebody else, so we choose to strike on our own. But at the same time, don't reject or miss the opportunity, like you just said, about working with somebody and learning, because you might get into it and find out you hate it. You might get into it and go, holy crap, I thought it was going to be X, Y, and Z, and it's A, B, C, and I don't want to do this, and do that on someone else's dime.
Absolutely.
Like, I've done this for 28 years, and there's moments, sure, I'm like, man, why didn't I become but I love what I do. And at the end of the day, I know, because I've done it so long, I know any I don't care if it's a movie star or a sports athlete that makes millions, there's a pain in the ass part of every job, everything we do. But the key is that if before you invest your time, money, and sweat and blood into something, be in the industry for a while. I think that's why a lot of people can fail, because they don't try it out first. They don't have a way that they think they're going to reinvent that wheel, and we're going to make it 8-sided instead of round, and we're going to and sometimes a lot of times that's true, right? But at the end of the day, there is still a habit and a reality that the business has a certain number of things it's just going to be, right? We're not going to walk into a restaurant or a food truck, I'm sure, and have a smooth day every day, right? Every day there's something new, something breaking, different customers, different ups, different downs. So, yeah, anyways. Any final thoughts?
No, thank you. This is an honor to be the first guest.
First interview. Now, we didn't really do a full rundown of what your truck serves. So give me a plug. I'll put this at the beginning of the interview.
Okay.
Your 30-second elevator pitch.
All right.
No pressure.
So Cajun Deli, but DELHI. It's Cajun Indian fusion. It's my natural cooking style that evolved from growing up my entire life in New Orleans and being raised by an Indian mom in an Indian kitchen. It's a twist on classic Indian food and on classic New Orleans food. It will look familiar and it will seem familiar, but it will taste very different than what you expect. And I hope everyone comes and checks it out and enjoys it.
Hey guys, Chef Tony with Chef Tony's Seafood Restaurant in Bethesda. You'll see this as some part of an interview that we're shooting right now, but I wanted to give you and the watchers and the listeners, whatever way you're consuming this, honest feedback about Amit's food. It's unbelievable. That might get bleeped out or might not. I don't know. I've had two things, and both of them were kick-ass amazing. And I'm not necessarily easy to please, but very, very tasty. Great food, great deep flavors, fun combinations. I will have more, thank you very much, whenever it shows up. But I definitely suggest for you to get out there and check out Cajun Deli, wherever you can find the location that's going to be at next. Really kick-ass food, really good. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed the interview. Thanks, Amit, for coming out. We'll slice it up however we do. Thanks for watching, guys. ChefTSays is in the can.